Welcome back to Link Outside the Bio with Professor Def, where we explore culture, art, and current events. We don't do microwave hot takes. No. We like to take our time and break things down into courses. We like to take a topic on a walk like Jill Scott, you feel me? Yeah, we like to go deeper than what the algorithm allows, right? Everything is deep, and history is a current event, so let's get right into it. For those that don't know who LaRussell is before this heaven-sent moment, this is what this video is about. It's about full context. LaRussell is an important artist who built a platform organically in 2026 when it's really hard for artists to cut through, using community and transparency and a consistent DIY work ethic. And that connected with a lot of people, including myself. I've been an independent artist for over 15 years, and so this LaRussell getting as far as he did really meant a lot. And this is a lot of people's first time ever hearing about LaRussell. And we got to get into the context, right?
Hey, I'm not perfect, and neither is the president. Was guiltier than a nigga hiding evidence. You can't be mad that they heated if you don't let them vent. Even the devil was heaven sent. Even Malcolm was heaven sent. Even Martin was heaven sent. Even Kanye was heaven sent. We all heaven sent. Donald too. We all heaven sent. Epstein too. We all heaven sent. Adolf too. We all heaven sent. Even you, we all heaven sent. I remember I made this record and I sent it off to my engineer, and he calls me. He said, "Man, you probably shouldn't put this out." I said, "Why? What the hell happened?" He said, you talking about Epstein, there's a lot of shit going on. And I said, "Thank you for calling me. I'm finna drop this." That's exactly why we need it. Because everybody sit and be silent. And the goal of an artist is to express the times and say all the things that nobody else want to say or know how to say. You hear me?
Be quiet, but everybody be quiet! That's what is wrong with you. Stop it! I have never in my life yelled at a girl like this. I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you.
Yikes. It was that bad, y'all. It was that bad that we had to break out the Tyra. But for real, what's interesting is he put this out. Like, he edited this clip for us. Like, ooh, we gonna get him with this one. I don't think it's gonna hit the way that you think it is, brother. And that's, rewatching it, I was taken aback. Because what's funny is in the actual clip, he says the engineer part at the end, but in the clip that went viral, he put that in the beginning. And so he knew. But I guess he didn't know, because he ended up doubling and tripling down and deactivating his Instagram. And you know what? You might need some time outside the algorithm, you know what I'm saying? You might need to relink and reconnect with your purpose outside the bio, you feel me? You've got to stay focused. Back to the program. So, contrary to popular belief, it wasn't a really radical statement to say that someone is heaven sent. There was no real call to action, and we already know that the algorithm rewards extremities. And what's unfortunate is that this statement is going to activate a certain kind of base of people that are not interested in critical thinking or justice. But another way to think about it is, when we hear outrageous statements on the algorithm that rewards extreme language, who stands to benefit materially from this idea being pushed? If we believe this idea to be true, then what actions or inactions are being prompted by this message? Who paid for this message to reach you? A lot of us already know that controversy sells. I'm not new to this. Kanye West existed, right? So, still exists. He didn't become poor once he started saying anti-black things like slavery is a choice and other right-wing rhetoric, but it activated a base. And I don't think that LaRussell thinks he's going against his own beliefs. I think he doubled and tripled down on that. I think he believes what he said. And at this point, he doesn't feel like he really has to consider anything outside of his own artistic expression. And so let's get to that word expression. One thing that I noticed at the beginning of the video, the Heaven Sent video, is that he conflated a version of what Nina Simone said and what Nina Simone said about an artist's duty. Now let's look at that word duty. Now the difference between the word duty and goal is very different. A duty speaks towards a moral obligation that is required or a responsibility, while a goal is an attempt or with a desired endpoint. So when LaRussell says the goal of an artist is to express the times, it's a riff on an improper conflation of Nina Simone's quote. And the actual quote is, an artist's duty is to reflect the times. Reflect means introspection. Expression is a pretty passive way for an artist to go, right? To just express a time. Don't talk fake deep to me, I don't like it. So expression is pretty passive, and I think these times call for a little bit more than an expression, right? Where is heaven? Who all is up there? If these people are heaven sent. Also, I want to make sure that this critique is not just about LaRussell. My critique is about the role. What is the role of the rapper in community outside of a savior complex? What is the role of a rapper outside of the savior complex within community? And I think what we noticed was his response. His response was actually more surprising than what he actually said on the mic in that verse. Because when just one individual makes it out of the hood, right, then what ends up happening is you can be easily compromised. What seems to be at play is a little bit of spiritual bypassing. That leads me to asking, what is the role or what is the aspiration of a rapper outside of the savior complex in relationship to the hood? So it really hit me, the refusal to take any kind of accountability or even reflect on what maybe I was wrong, because I don't think that he thinks he's wrong and he has people around him that are not questioning that. But that's an interesting, hard stance to have when you've built up community equity. And just because you've helped people in your community doesn't mean that you can't spread a message that is harmful to your community, or even a message that encourages inaction against people that are committing crimes against us, right? And don't want the best for us. So really, words mean things. We can't get away from that. Every word we use is a signifier. And we could get deeper into signifiers. That's what we do on this channel. We get deep. So let's dip our toes in just a little bit into semiotics. Semiotics is the study of signs and symbols and their use or interpretation. So when speaking about semiotics, we have to also mention and bring up signs. Signs are words. Not every sign is a word, but words can be a sign, and words sign meanings. So the meaning can be intentional or unintentional. Language is produced by material conditions. As practitioners of the art form of hip hop, we out here wordsmithing and word riffing, right? What we're doing with our words is that we're signing, and the signing creates meaning. And the meaning gives us the ability to transfer information. So within the context of the pergola, which is where LaRussell's backyard was, the Heaven Sent might mean greater purpose, right? This is what happens when we say things, but we don't get to the nit and the grit of what we're saying. I think what he meant was like a purpose that we can't actually see, but the actual definition of the phrase heaven sent means occurring at a favorable time or opportunity, something that is exceptionally fortunate and timely or beneficial, arising as if it was by divine intervention. And so if we are to shorthand that, then we're looking at heaven sent is a blessing. That's what typically that's usually the sign and the signifier, what that equals. And so when you're moving really fast, you can start conflating things into a kind of shorthand. And once you scale up, you have less time to prepare what you're saying for your audience. And when you've built your platform on authenticity and community, your response to critique is really key. Now let's look at some of the figures that were mentioned and see by the definition that I said earlier, if any of these people have benefited humanity or arrived by divine intervention in any way. Also, what did LaRussell's phrase sign in the backyard? Also take into account that as a rapper, when you rap over really sparse piano with no drums, I mean, as the rapper, you are the drum, right? In this case, you're setting people up to hear something really true, right? Really heartfelt, thoughtful even. And so your production choices are also signs and signifiers. Signs and signifiers of meanings. Yeah, I think it was a poor choice as a writer to align the names of Adolf Hitler, the Holocaust, Donald Trump, who's actively bombing babies and tearing families apart, and Jeffrey Epstein, who has eaten babies and tortured people, and then mention, or right before them mention, Malcolm X and Martin. Who is that conflation for? To say heaven sent is not a radical stance. To say that these people were created by God is basically just saying that these people were born, if you believe in Christianity like that. So what might be a more radical stance and an actionable stance is to demand justice for the people who have been harmed by these folks. But we get caught up in celebrity. And so the call to action seemed to be to provide empathy or to, it just seemed like a very nothing burger point to make. But this video is less about that, but I just needed y'all to know where I stood on that. I mean, it's more about the context for this moment. What leads up to this moment? What makes a moment like this? Let's start here as somebody who is an independent artist. I was actively rooting for bro before this moment. There's a lot of people that are hearing LaRussell for the first time based on this song. And I don't even know if the song is actually recorded or what's going on with it, but we're just going to talk about this clip. And also there's a lot of people that are coming for LaRussell for his bars or his lack thereof. And I just want consistent critiques. You know what I'm saying? Because some of y'all faves ain't got bars. Most commercial rappers, let's be honest, are not barring out. Let's just be consistent with the critique, though. I think LaRussell caught a lot of hate before this heaven sent moment because he was willing to smile. He was willing to have fun, you know, like, and that's very not masculine or, you know, whatever people have the idea of what a rapper is supposed to look, sound, and feel like. I think LaRussell pushed back on that and was himself. So that's one thing, is I think that people weren't taking his bar work seriously because of the persona, right? But they will make excuses for other people's bars, and they will enjoy that. And it's like the critiques are unfair, and let's just be honest about that. Let's be honest about that the bar work isn't any worse than name a commercial rapper. And LaRussell's very, very open about bringing back the vibe of 06. You know, the vibe of 06 and the kinds of rappers that were making hits and having fun. We wouldn't know who LaRussell is if he didn't have slaps. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is that it wasn't just hustle, it was also good music. However you feel about it. That's not what we're here for. Let's get into the context. So LaRussell is a rapper from the Bay Area, from Vallejo, California, and his father is his main inspiration. And he originally went under the name Toto Shakur until 2020. He opened his own art company called Good Company with his homies and people that supported him right there in the Bay. And he's released 39 albums since 2018. 39 albums. I started seeing his videos that he was throwing in his mama's backyard called the pergola. Now, why all this is important is to understand that this person did not come out of nowhere. This person created a career completely homegrown, literally starting in his backyard, straight out the soil. Started touring and doing all ages shows. That's another thing. Not in dark clubs, but daytime shows that he would go from city to city and do pay what you want shows so that the music is accessible, right? Also, LaRussell was splitting royalty revenues with his fans, which is a completely different kind of business model that a lot of artists have yet to adopt, is to actually build equity with the people that support you. They invest in you. He made music accessible and gained a lot of success because of his willingness to be transparent and share the wealth with his supporters. So here's where I want to start this story of the heaven sent to hell it went situation. Let's go back to early 2023. LaRussell turned down a deal from Roc Nation, which he called a predatory deal. And even though he ends up signing with Roc Nation, I'm fine with people changing their minds. That's not what this video is about. But that first Roc Nation deal was said to have no advance money attached to it. It was just a $15,000 discretionary fund. He had a lawyer look at it and he sent it back to Roc Nation and was like, where's the actual advance? Then they send the deal back and $800,000 is the advance. And they said, our bad, that was a mistake. And LaRussell was like, I'm gonna hold that against y'all. That's a pretty big mistake, $800,000 mistake. So they end up not signing. He just kept it moving. Then we fast forward. Later on in an interview that he does with DJ Small Eyes, he says that he regrets walking, if there is one regret in his career, that he regrets walking away from that deal. But that's neither here nor there. Let's keep it moving. Let's go back a little bit further to 2021. Russ, the rapper Russ, gave LaRussell a 6-figure deal, no strings attached partnership that was a 50-50 profit split that prioritizes artist ownership and autonomy. Russ is known for being an advocate for artists first kind of deals. So then, this way, LaRussell maintained his masters and his publishing, but also received some capital outside of the record industry, the conventional record deal ecosystem. And this created more of a partnership that allowed him to go to where he is now. With a lot of motion, LaRussell created for himself. He was hustling. He was dropping albums, 39 albums since 2018. Let's just say that. And I want us to fast forward to the end of 2025. I believe it was December 30th. I'm not sure because the algorithm be algorithming. But LaRussell announces a campaign that he's going to start on January 1st, which was to sell his next album, fully independent, called Something's in the Water, produced fully by Lil Jon. He didn't just announce the album. No. There's a campaign with this, right? We up in the ante. We going to that next level. So LaRussell had the aim to sell 100,000 units in 30 days. There is no data to back this up. No artist that is fully independent has done that. And he was also selling it on an app called Even. This has taken us outside of streaming, and nobody has heard the album. So this is direct artist to listener way of doing business. And on January 6th, an update comes through that we see $11,000 was paid by Kyrie Irving for this one album, as well as Snoop Dogg, who bought a copy for $2,500. And also Cedric the Entertainer paid $1,000 for his copy. And what's so beautiful about this is the transparency. You could see on LaRussell's stream that he was having artists support him directly. Here's the sale, here's the amount of it, and we're watching all of this happen in real time. So it was like you're watching a telethon of a rapper selling an album that nobody has heard yet. Exciting. Oh, and what was amazing is that the average album sale was $22 per album. Good luck figuring that out on Spotify streams and doing splits. So after that happened, then you see the next day that LaRussell has the FaceTime with Kyrie. And so they're doing the FaceTime. Kyrie's thanking him, or LaRussell is thanking Kyrie for the $11,000 purchase. And Kyrie says, nah, yo, don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. I love what you're doing, and I know you'll pay it forward. Then I see a week later that LaRussell does pay it forward by creating a form on his link in his bio to directly support his community. So that exact $11,001 that was donated by Kyrie Irving was available for direct mutual aid to help anyone in his community, no question asked, with anything from groceries to rent to folks getting their student loans paid off, no questions asked. Just redistributing Kyrie's contribution directly back into the community. You have to love that. That's dope. I haven't seen another artist use their platform in this way. So it's like GoFundMe with bars, right? Then he starts dropping singles in January. Things get a little quiet. I lose track of it. I bought my copy. And the next time I see LaRussell ending up at the top of my algorithm on Instagram is him making an announcement that he's signing to Roc Nation, which was very surprising because he had turned down the exact same company 3 years ago. And now he was signing with them. And I don't know if this has anything to do with, what was happening with Something in the Water. But then I go to Even right after watching that clip, and I'm like, how close did he get to his goal of 100K? So on the day of the announcement, I check it out, and I believe LaRussell had sold 24,850 copies of Something's in the Water, which is so impressive when nobody has heard the album yet. But what was disheartening for me as an independent artist was that there wasn't any announcement of, hey, here's where we reached. And maybe I wasn't in tune to that live stream, but I didn't see that. At the end of the 30 days, it's fine if you don't hit your goal. I think it's still so commendable. But it did make me raise an eyebrow a little bit that Jay-Z didn't just buy the rest of the remaining, right? The remaining 100,000. But yeah, come to find out that the deal that LaRussell signed is a 6-month, 1-album deal, which is very interesting. I'm still waiting to see how this plays out. So LaRussell mentions that in another interview. He talks about the terms of the deal. So something that came to my mind was, wow, this is a case study to see how many units as a fully independent artist that has only done partnerships up until this moment, if you use the algorithm in the kind of how high volume output way that LaRussell does, how many copies could you sell if you never took your foot off the gas from your mama's backyard? The answer is 24,850. So now I remember when, more historical context, when Nipsey had the $100 album or the $100 mixtape, and Jay-Z linked up with him and he bought one of Nipsey's $100 mixtapes for $1,000. So he supported but never signed Nipsey. Now another thing to put into context is that Nipsey Hussle's last album, Victory Lap, was in partnership with Atlantic. And it's not about whether he was fully independent or not, but it's just stating the facts that there is a history and a precedent for artists that have come up to do partnerships. That doesn't take anything away from the artistry. So then he makes, shortly after getting signed to Jay-Z, he makes a critique about Lil Wayne rapping about lean and how much Wayne's music has poisoned the community, and he makes a statement after that of being like, nah, I love Wayne. And so it's just like the first little like, controversy, hint of controversy. And people are having a dialogue about it. And so the next thing that is said that seems to stir people up is Heaven Sent. This video. So he signs to Jay-Z on February 4th officially. And the Heaven Sent situation goes up March 15th. So he releases this video claiming that everybody is heaven sent. And I think we got to be mindful of the spiritual bypassing again, because the spiritual bypassing has us rationalizing things that are reprehensible. Like, as if everyone has a role, even if it's evil. Like, this is a part of God's big master plan. And what are we supposed to do with that? And I feel like no matter what you believe, the behavior can't be conflated. It feels very much like Kanye's nachos being reheated. And we know that LaRussell knows better. He made Free the World. He made Black Boy Fly. You have to look those songs up. Look those songs up if you don't believe me. That's why. But see, that's why we can't look up to anybody. It's not an individual thing. I think to say that anything is heaven sent is really low hanging fruit. But there's blood on those leaves, you feel me? And every person mentioned in that video, other than Malcolm and Martin, has affected adults, children, women. There's countless people whose lives have been negatively impacted by the people mentioned in that video. And we're talking about, really, y'all, like someone who's eating children and is a president who's actively disappearing people. These statements are made by someone who is not fully engaged with the current events, who isn't reading deeper into it, who doesn't, maybe has empathy, but isn't taking the time to really understand the gravity of the behaviors. And it just say heaven sent, it just glosses over so much nuance and detail. The current actions of these people is dangerous. It's a dangerous message. And I think on top of that, the response was aggressive, like aggressively defensive. It was a response to people in the community that support you. And I think that there's this message that happens pretty often. I think I saw one of the videos that either LaRussell or T was saying is like, people will be like, well, free drug dealers, or free that rapist, or free anybody that has done bad crimes. And what's the difference with this? It's a false equivalency. It's a false equivalency. It's not about comparing fault. It's all wrong. It's all wrong. It's about This thing happens when when something comes to light that a black celebrity has done a bad thing, has harmed someone. There's always a group of people that cape for the abuse of black celebrities, stating that there are white men who do the same things or do worse. They get away with it. That cannot be our standard. That cannot be our community standard for justice or treatment of each other. What white men are able to get away with, that really needs to be examined. What white men are able to get away with needs to be resisted and fought. We really need to examine, why is it that white men can get away with murder and cannibalism, and we need to question that. That needs to be asked. Why isn't personage, what you're really trying to say is, why isn't personage afforded to black folks? Why is there always a group of people trying to take us down? That doesn't mean we can't do wrong while we are in the system that is actively trying to kill us. It doesn't mean that we can't take responsibility for our actions, especially between each other, because what's also at play is power dynamics. And I hope that we don't try to achieve celebrity to reach impunity. What I wanted to address is that, like, I know we off-roaded for a little bit, but we needed to confront that common argument. And what we need are new standards. That's me included. There's no celebrity to look to. And although I'm disappointed, I can't be surprised. Because when the aspiration is to scale up and to get bigger, more reach, more scale, everything, something will always have to be compromised. Look at your favorite anything. As soon as they go wide, the quality of whatever it is also goes down. I want indie folks to win. Independent artists to win. I'm interested in what bro does next. How do you bounce back? But can you be a rapper without corporate aspirations and have community support and respect? That's where I want to leave it off. Yeah. Heaven sent, to hell it went. Y'all stay tuned, like and subscribe and share. Appreciate it. Peace, 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 peace.